Hi everyone, I'm Haley. This is Boo. This is Bitter Kitten Crafts. I am a nanny and a knitter and a painter and a maker, and I live in Washington, D.C. And I want to do kind of a flash my stash type of situation and get myself motivated to knit with my stash because I hope to knit only from stash in 2024. I panic bought yarn during the pandemic. I bought so much yarn that didn't have a goal, didn't have a purpose. I also worked briefly at an indie dyed yarn company pre-pandemic. And so I have some of their yarn. Hi Boo. I have some of their yarn that I'd also kind of like to work through. Just a lot of miscellaneous yarn that I've combined together to make projects, and I'm excited to show you guys what I'm going to do. And what I'll do is I'll put the pattern on the screen, and then I'll talk about the yarn, and then we'll see kind of what's left at the end. So I've seen some people make a disclaimer on some of these kinds of videos, and I'd like to, oopsies, sorry about that. I'd like to do kind of the same thing here. Everyone's stash is really personal, and it's not a reflection of anything about you, how big your stash is. Whatever you're comfortable with is good for you. My living situation recently changed, and the reason that I am trying to kind of de-stash yarn is not because I don't like having a lot of yarn, but it's because my partner and I now live together, and I have a lot of yarn, and he's kind of like, what is all this? So I need to downsize and turn a lot of the older yarn in my stash into something tangible. So with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start with the whip that I already started for January, which is a stash whip. Hello, Boo. When I was a new knitter to the indie dyed world, I've been knitting and crocheting for a long time, decades, but I didn't know that single ply merino it didn't have that many use factors to it. It's really kind of fragile, and it's not great for garments. And so I was really fixated when I first started my hand-dyed yarn journey on the beautiful, beautiful colors of the Madeline Tosh Merino Light, which, as you can see, this is stunning. And so I was so fixated on the colors that I didn't really realize that it wasn't applicable to all the circumstances I wanted it to be. And so I ended up with a lot that's lingered in my stash since about 2018, which is when I really started getting into indie dyed yarn. And now I'm left with a lot, and I have several skeins of it to show you and several plans of what to make with it. My first cast on of 2024 was the Bennet Sister Shawl by Lindsay Fowler of Larkspur Knits. And look at this awesome neon color. This is the Madeline Tosh Merino Light, and it's in the colorway Infrared Sky. I have no idea if this color is still available because this is 8-ish year old yarn, 6-ish year old yarn. But the colorway is stunning. And the way the shawl works is that you knit half of it in just regular yarn, fingering weight, and then the other half is fingering weight held with mohair. And so my mohair is going to be this beautiful ritual dyes. So I was given this as a gift. I am not a Pisces. This is the colorway Pisces in the Ritual Dyes base. I am a Sagittarius, but I also am not somebody who cares about that. But this is a beautiful color, and it goes with the kind of aqua in this yarn really, really nicely. So I think this is going to look beautiful. I have it held with this, it's either undyed or barely dyed single ply merino. It's the same base as this. But this has been in a ball for years, so I have no idea what color this is. But I think that it'll look really, really nice to have the little pops of aqua with the gray, and it'll kind of neutralize this color a little bit, even though I love a bright. This is my first whip and my first cast on of 2024, and this is, my first stash whip of the year, and I'm really excited to show you the rest of them. I've kind of broken it down into categories of accessories. Obviously the shawl, that's an accessory, and then I have some summer knits planned, and then I also have a couple garments. And last year and the year before I made 6 garments, so I have picked out about 6 sweaters to show you, as well as my summer knits. So let's go ahead and get started with my accessories, just because they're kind of quick, and I'll just kind of fire them off and show you the yarn, and then we'll move on to the bigger projects. My first accessory cast on of the winter is going to be in this yarn, which is pretty funky. This is yarn I picked up at the Upcycle Creative Reuse Center, and I could not find it on Ravelry or the general internet. This is Crystal's Palace Yarns Marmalade, and you can see it has a lot of fun texture. It's wool acrylic rayon blend, but it kind of gives like a mohair-y type of vibe with the halo. I think you can see that. And I'm just gonna hold it with this fingering weight undyed Knit Picks yarn that I have in my stash and just knit little mittens. So I want to knit the World's Simplest Mittens by Tin Can Knits, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that pattern. I've never knit a thumb gusset, and I really want to. So I figured that this yarn, I have this much and then a second ball as well. So I should have enough to make 2 like normal size mittens. I honestly hope it gets cold enough in DC to even need these mittens, but it truly might not because it hasn't really hit below 45 degrees like yet this winter at all, which is upsetting. I'm also planning to make a couple of hats this year, and I have some really special yarn to make those hats with. So this is Gurdy Run Woolen Mill yarn. This is yarn I bought actually this past year at the Maryland Alpaca Festival. So if you watched my video from a couple months ago, you've already seen this yarn. This is a really special yarn. It is Teasdale and merino wool and then 15% sari silk. I'll put a photo in of the yarn so you can see all of the neps, but this is stunning yarn. This is so beautiful. And so my plan for this yarn is to make a toque, a beanie. And I looked at the Traveling Cables hat by Purl Soho, and I think that's going to be my choice for this. I've been deciding between that and the Antler toque, but I think that the cables will show off the little neps in this the best. If anybody has any other suggestions for like a cabled hat that they really like, definitely put it below because I'm interested in making a couple of more intricate hat patterns this year. My next hat cast on is going to be in this YOTH Yarns Big Sister. This is the colorway Golden Kiwi, and it is like a cashmere merino nylon blend. This is yarn that I got for $6, you can see there, at the Upcycle Creative Reuse Center. So that place is like a guilty pleasure of mine because you can find some stunning yarn there. I mean, this is like a $30, it's a $26 skein of yarn originally, and I got it for $6. So that is awesome. And it is also going to be some sort of more complicated textured hat. I was looking, yeah, like I mentioned, at the Antler toque. And I think that this is a better fit for the Antler toque and this is a better fit for the Traveling Cables. But either way, I'm gonna have 2 new beanies for the fall and winter of this year and next year. I did end up frogging a lot of beanies I made when I first started knitting this year. I didn't understand gauge that much, and I made the hats at the gauge I liked without realizing that I needed to increase the stitch count. So I made a lot of like children's sized hats basically without kind of accounting for the fact that like, yes, I really wanted to knit this worsted weight on size 4 needles instead of size 6, but that meant my hat would be smaller. So with these, I plan to fix that. Maybe add an extra repeat of the pattern to alleviate that issue. Okay, my last hat is going to be in this Lorna's Laces Shepherd's Worsted yarn. This is like a color pooling yarn. It's a color flashing yarn. So each section of the yarn is dyed in like a chunk and it'll kind of pool really crazily. So this one is not going to be a more textured pattern. I think it's just going to be a ribbed beanie. But my main motivation for knitting this one is that I really want to see how the colors pool. I think it's going to be super cool because the colors are funky and fun and I love them. But I have no idea how this will knit up. So I really want this like out of my stash. This is from some sort of clearance event at Knit Locally, which is a local-ish yarn store to me. It's like an hour away from me. And they had like a big clearance situation. And so I attended that and I got this for $10. And then it sat in my stash for, I don't know, 3-4 years, but oh well. So I have 2 skeins of this yarn in my stash. This is the Madeline Tosh Merino Light in the colorway Pegasus. Look at the gold, look how it glows. It's so beautiful. So I have 2 skeins of this yarn in my stash, and this is going to be probably my only other shawl project of the year. I'm planning to knit the Litha shawl with this, which is by my friend Laura of Fox and Honey Fibres. And if you remember, I showed this in a previous video and I showed me frogging the really intricate lace shawl I had initially selected for this yarn because it was just like too much for my poor little brain and I couldn't keep up with the lace repeats. So the Litha shawl is lace, but it's like a beautiful little flowery eyelet lace and it should be a lot easier to keep up with than what I had initially picked. So my last accessory is kind of more of a silly accessory. I want to knit the Emotional Support Chicken, which is designed by the Knitting Tree LA. I want to knit it so badly. I wanted to for like 2 years since it came out. And I have, this is a Zauberball So it changes color really rapidly, and it's like just like fun, crazy colors. This is obviously a scrap. This is a leftover from the same project I initially used this with, and I don't have any other plans for them. And frankly, I don't want to knit with this held single ever again, because the project I used it for was a genuine slog. So this is kind of just a random ball I have, and I'm holding them double for my chicken, and I think it'll make a really cute chicken. So that's my last accessory of the year. My first garment cast on of the year is going to be the Ankers sweater by Petite Knit, which, just to preface, I don't usually knit Petite Knit patterns at all. Last year I knit one. This year I'll knit probably one. I don't generally get that much wear out of the pullover sweaters I've made. So I knew that I wanted to knit a cardigan, and the Ankers cardigan was one of the few I found that has like a sport weight gauge that I like. So I feel kind of stuck about it, but I am going to stick with my plan to make it. And this is the Fibres yarns. Oops, there we go. The Fibres yarns Mad Hatter base, and this is like their Destination New England yarn. So there was a yarn store that closed near me, and they had 75% off. So I got this sweater quantity for $28.99. I have 4 of these, which was awesome. I am knitting one of the bigger sizes of the Petite Knit pattern, which I don't love, like I mentioned. Like, I wish it was more size inclusive, and I'm intending to make, like, all the rest of the garments I'm going to show are size inclusive garments. So just keep that in mind with this one, and if anybody out there wants to design a sport weight cardigan, like, definitely do it, because there's not enough. Another sweater quantity I have in my stash that I really want to use this year is the Scranton Stitcher. And oops, geez, I keep showing these upside down. This is the Scranton Stitcher in the colorway Fruit Loops on her Surrey base. And this is the most delightfully soft yarn I've seen in some time. I love how the colors are looking on the camera. She's actually having a favorites collection release, like, I think in the next like 24 hours if you watch this video when it comes out. So keep an eye out for that. This is going to become the Community Cozy by Alicia Plummer, which is going to be held with like a merino regular sock yarn, undyed. I have a lot of that Knit Picks undyed, so I'll be holding it with that. And it's like a loose gauge, really easy waffle seamed sweater. So I think that seaming, hello boo. I think that seaming with the Surrey might be a bit sticky and challenging, but it'll be worth it because Surrey doesn't have a lot of structure. I mean, you can see like the drape on this, so it'll be great. I think it's a great choice to provide like some structure to the garment that I make. So we're back again with the Madeline Tosh Merino Light. This is a one-of-a-kind color, and then this is the colorway Opalite, and they are going to be held double together to knit the Big Rib by Jessie Maid, which I have already knit once. And like I mentioned earlier, if you've watched my previous videos, you know that I had not the most amount of success with this pattern. I chose to knit it with Surrey and the single ply held together. And the problem that I ran into is that my garment didn't have enough weight to kind of stretch out the ribbing and hold the ribbing like stretched out. And so it was very, very tight fitted on my body, although I did not intend for that. And like that my gauge should have given me a much bigger ease than I had. I think that these will look cool held double. They're kind of slightly different shades of purple, and then this one has a lot more tonality to it. But I do think that this yarn choice will give me the weight that I need in the garment to keep the ribbing kind of stretched out how I want and give me the appropriate amount of ease. I have one bulky weight garment planned for the year, and this is 29 Bridges Studio, and like their one-of-a-kind colorway for one of the shows I attended. But this is like an imperfect version. It says why I'm special. I have an extra splash of red, although I haven't found any on here. I have 3 skeins of this, and then I have a couple of other random one-off bulky weight skeins from the company I once worked for. So I'm planning to make the Aquamar Lean by Park Williams, which is supposed to be like a marled bulky weight sweater, but I'm going to be knitting it as a cardigan. So this is a bottom-up raglan sweater, and so I believe that instead of knitting and joining my yarn in the round, all I'm gonna do to modify this pattern is just not connect my yarn in the round, and then I'll be adding a button band at the end, and I'll just like call it a day. So I have, like I said, I have this brown, and I have 3 skeins of this gold, I have 1 skein of undyed bulky, and then I have like a neon pink. I think it's right here actually. This yarn is Electric Love by the Scranton Stitcher, and it is such a fun fun, bright color, and I really love this color, so I want to include it in like as many things as I can. I tried to make a beanie out of it, but it was not enough yarn, so I think that putting it as stripes in this cardigan will be like the perfect solution to kind of a color pop. I did get a little Christmas money, and I did buy one sweater quantity because I had to, from the Little Foxes Knits, who's my friend Gina in Virginia, and she dyed up this colorway Kaleidoscopic Highway, so I'll put a picture of it here. I'm planning to knit the Daily Pullover by Paula Pereira, and I knit a short sleeve version of it this past summer, and I love it. So I really want to knit a long sleeve version this year, and I am not counting it as going into my stash because I'm planning to cast it on like right when the yarn gets here. So that way it's no harm, no foul, no stash, kind of skirting the rules a little bit, but we're gonna go with it. Like I mentioned, it doesn't really get super cold in DC. Today it was 50 degrees and sunny. I'm not really anticipating us having a super long or super cold winter. So I do have like quite a few summer knits planned, and I'm really excited for them because last year my summer knits were the ones I wore the most. Let's start with a project that I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with, and I've definitely shown on my channel before, and that's the My Little Secret Crop I Jessie made. So this is cotton cream loops and threads. It is a Michaels brand yarn. It is 15% nylon, 85% cotton, and it's the same construction as the two My Little Secret Crops I made last summer, although it's a different brand. This is like the Michaels version, and I use the Joanne version, but it's essentially the same yarn. So I am planning to knit My Little Secret Crops out of this in purple, and then I also have a mustard color somewhere in my stash. Like one skein will get you a full little tank top, which is awesome because this is a 320 yard, 200 gram skein. My next summer garment is going to be in this Saucy Sport. So this is a thrift store find, and I'm so happy I found this. I actually have 5 skeins of this that came in a little $2 bag at the thrift store. It's just 100% mercerized cotton. I did find this on Ravelry. It is like old. I don't think you can buy this new anymore, but look at it, it's so cute. And this is going to become a ranunculus by Midori Hirose. I knit one of these for my mom as a gift last summer, and she really liked it, but I knit hers in wool. And so I'm interested for myself to have like a looser gauge cotton t-shirt in this bright color. I think it'll be great for like July, August knitting and July, August like wearing. It does stay hot in DC through like mid-October. So I think if I start this as some summer knitting, this will get a lot of wear. And the gauge on that pattern is really loose. So a cotton is a good choice for it because it won't be like stretched out and weighed down since there won't be like that much weight to the yarn. All right, this ball is looking like a little worse for wear, but there's nothing I can really do about that. So this is the Joanne version of the yarn I just showed, the cotton cream. This is K&C Element yarn, and I did knit 2 tank tops with this yarn last year, although in color full versions, and this is like the natural color. So I have, I think 8 skeins of this natural color, and I want to knit a ripple crop top by Jessie Made. A lot of my summer garments have been Jessie Made in the past and like probably will continue to be. She knits a lot of her things at a loose gauge, and I just love the way that a lot of her patterns look. And I'm trying to use patterns I already own, and so I own a lot of her patterns, and so yeah, it is what it is. I knit a ripple crop top last spring, and I wore it a lot. But this will be a machine washable version, which will be even better than the silk version that I have. So this yarn, you can see the clearance sticker on it. There's absolutely nothing fancy about this yarn. It's the same fiber blend as the previous cream loops and threads cream cotton I showed you. So 15% nylon, 85% cotton. Unfortunately, this yarn is discontinued. If it wasn't discontinued, I would buy a lot more because it's wonderful. It's machine washable, but the cotton cream is a great sub for it. I really do think that this will be a great addition to my wardrobe, especially with the machine washability. The 2 that I made out of this yarn last summer, the 2 tank tops, were like some of the most wearable things I've ever made in my life. I did not realize we're already on the last garment, and that is definitely not to say that this will be the last garment I'm knitting for the year, just that these are kind of the patterns I've already picked out for my stash. I have no idea how long it will take me to get through these projects. It could be 6 months, it could be the whole year. We're gonna find out together. I'm also gonna make a separate video on like what I plan to crochet this year because I have some really cool ideas and things like brewing, so keep an eye out for that as well because these are only knitting projects. They're completely separate. This is Ritual Dye's Undine in the colorway Quartzite. It's a cotton linen blend, so my last summer garment that I have planned, probably I won't make more summer garments than this just because that's like a lot of summer knitting, but this is going to become the Ribbed Lace Raglan by James & Watts, which is a pattern I've looked forward to knitting for several summers. I have 2 skeins of this, so about 700 yards, so I should be able to get the tea out of this. I really hope so. I have seen several people on YouTube and Instagram try to make stuff with this yarn and like really not be that successful or hate what they've made or frog it. And so I've kind of put using this yarn on the back burner. I got it at it was clearanced out at my local yarn store. And I just kind of picked it up on a whim. My friend picked up a different color too, and neither of us have used it yet. So I really hope that this is the summer I finally get around to using it. The color's really cute and happy, and I really actually am unusual, I think, in the fact that I do enjoy knitting with cotton. So hopefully this will turn into something this year. And hopefully I don't have the same experience as everyone else seem to and frog what I've made. So I have no idea if this will be everything I knit in 2024 or not. I mean, honestly, most likely not, because I knit a lot, and also because I am like not a creature of sticking to a plan. So I hope that I'll knit through most of these things this year, but this could only last me 6 months. I also plan to make some scrappy projects because I do have a lot of like random little balls of yarn lying around, and I'll put up one pattern that I've been looking at specifically for worsted weight scraps. It's called the Reunion Cardigan. I don't have any color stories planned or scraps pulled yet, but I have been looking at this because it's a garter stitch cardigan, and I feel like garter stitch lends really well to scraps because of how things kind of blend together. So that's been something I've really been considering for scraps. And when I do pull my colors or have it like about to be on the needles, of course you guys will see it. Other than that, I'm kind of mind blown that this is like, it could be a year's worth of knitting. I have a lot of yarn to work through, and I'm excited about that. And you know, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. I hope your weather's better than it is here in DC. It's like another kind of gloomy afternoon, but thank you so much for watching.